we are recording this presentation to save ourselves from disasters that may happen in supply of electricity or Wi-Fi at the scheduled time and date of the presentation. And now let me share with you the presentation. What we intend to do. Is my presentation visible on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we are going to talk about disaster resilient future ready communities, a framework that practitioners perspective. This paper is prepared by two people, and the one very learned Professor Vinod Menon, who is the regional director Asia of on the Teams board and also holding number of UN assignments on disaster management. I am, and he is speaking from Pune in India. I am Dr. Yash Chawla, and I am Vice President Designate of Teams India. Together, we have made this paper presenting to you is with respect to resilience of the people. The definition of resilience as defined by European Union are three basic aspects have been considered: people, planet, and prosperity. And G20 declaration, the meeting of G20 held in India on 9th and 10th of September includes peace because that is the ultimate goal. So people, planet, peace, and prosperity are the four things. So what we are going to talk to you is future ready, disaster resilient communities and a framework for that. What is the perspective we have uh, from a person of the stature of Professor Vinod Menon, having handled many disasters across the globe? Disaster resilience deficit is there in communities. That is what is attempted over here. The community development challenge are manifolds, and they are customarily more complex as perceived or as top. What is community? There are diverse communities, clashing interests, goals, and no matching. Global migration has led to the micro communities everywhere. And to develop such a community, there are various approaches. It can be need based, it is readiness for disaster recovery, problem solving, handling crisis. Participation based will be by all and for all. Asset based related to their housing, roads, or any other infrastructure, and welfare based means their healthcare, their food, their living, everything. And community composition is again a mixture of many people who are reluctant to such activities. There are quite a few progressive people also. Technical functionalities in the communities are available, having managerial and technical expertise, and then there are activists. So you have to handle all. When we talk of resilience, there is a interaction with technological units also, and the social system and technology units interact. A small disaster normally focuses on technological aspects, but even a small disaster can create a large scale problem. And large scale problems, you know it, It involves a community. It is interplay of multiple systems, which includes electricity, telecommunication, roads, but everywhere human component is central, which can be individual, neighborhood, community. So depending upon the crisis organization, how it is to be handled is to be seen by them. Then we have got number of parameters which are to be taken care of by crisis management organizations is population and demography. That means how much vulnerable they are in terms of competition, social, economic structure, and distribution. The environment, how it is affected, how it got disturbed, how much it can absorb, and everything is based on the nomenclature of all these have been given as peoples. Population, environment, organized government services, whatever are the organized formal government services, physical infrastructure, lifestyle and communities, economic development, social and cultural capital. So these are various parameters that crisis management organizations have to handle. Now, when we talk of crisis management, I am experiencing a different type of exposure. While sitting in Australia, it is a multinational, multicultural communities are available here. A recent survey of Australia shows so many number of people from different communities and large numbers, and everybody has its own lifestyle. Now, who should handle it? In fact, Red Cross, Red Cross has been brought, to handle this, and they are creating opportunities and connections. In fact, I am also involved with this organization, and only last week I attended conveying disaster readiness to children as young as going to kindergarten or first standard, second standard, like that. Now, when we are talking about disasters, they are on the increase. Americas, all Latin America and for our formal America and the Asia, so many number of disasters have happened, and they are on the increase. Now, what are the disasters? In fact, all the disasters are different. Disasters are being seen everywhere, but maximum number is that of storms, floods. Whether I should call it earthquake as a higher number or drought as a higher number, I mean, but these are the disasters. So in 2021, $252.1 billion worth of assets have been destroyed, and that number of disasters, when we are talking about the numbers in the last slide we have talked, are here we are indicating. The people who are working on statistics are conveying that we will hit a figure of 560 disasters by 2030, which is only 7 years ahead or 6 years ahead, this year gone. Now, if we talk of 100 years, population or age of a person, 100 or 105, I am taking for the purpose of easy in calculation. There are 7 generation cohorts are running parallel, each of 15 years block. Each block of generation cohort is facing higher and higher temperatures. And we see the people who are born in 2005 who will be 75 years in 2080 will face the highest number. That's the graph we have covered only up to 2080. Further, it can go. Now, 6 kids have come forward. One of the quad, they said, bloody hell, you are always troubling us and you are giving us hotter environment, and we are going to quote 32 countries. They are going to quote against 32 countries. Yes, a lot of work has already been done. Integrated risk management, disaster risk reduction, emergency medical response. I mean, short names are already there. Then we create communities. We tell them, and the leader conveys how to handle the situation, and he gets the power. And then he says, "Let me keep it for some time." That's another problem. So now,
And can this adaptation be changed to adaptation?
yeah, oh, okay. This is climate change adaptation. I'm sorry for that, and thank you very much, Professor Saab. That's why I need your help. Okay, emergency preparedness can get us through first few days of disaster, but community's resilience, how it is to be handled with the frequent and high impact disaster which are increasing, the importance of community resilience is on the increase. Teams are to be created, a process orientation has to be done, and knowledge has to be uh, shared. You, me, everybody, all the speakers on this conference have worked out on this, and that's a knowledge. Whole bank of knowledge has to be shared with the public in the right quantum, and then we have to strengthen the community so that pattern of human and institution relationship improves. Then what do we do is to understand the community, establish their connection so that we can have the relationship, plan and implement, and finally review whether we are going on a right path or how we are proceeding. Community development has many things, but a typical processes and practices we have combined, they all cover is community should be able to, members should be able to help themselves and reduce reliance on external sources. And community development process can give human capital and social capital, but ultimately successful communities are those who understand the role and contribution by each and every member. Now, when we are talking about community and varying communities, it also depends on the stress, impact, or intensity of the shock we are going to face, and the resilience gradient. So now going from 1 to 3, level 3, it depends upon what is our absorption capacity of resilience, what is our adaptive capacity, and what is our transformative capacity, and whether the community is stable in its resilience, are flexible, and can cope up further on for change. It's an ongoing process. Every country must be doing little or more, and it's a process that is going on. But what happens when the disaster strikes at a particular, the whole process is kept aside. We start working on relief, we start working on early recovery, then we want to set up a long recovery path, and then the whole process of community development starts again. So that means the ongoing process and interaction with relief and recovery. The total process of setting up new urban agenda is based on various frameworks that have already been set in, is disaster reduction, sustainable development goals, or Paris Agreement. All are helping us to ultimately reach capacity development, innovation, multidisciplinary training, and partnership among socio-economic actors, ultimately to provide training support, planning, hazard warning, and communicating to people. This is what we are doing. And now, when a disaster strikes, everything, everybody starts working like a hero and starts working efficiently. People are happy that we are able to handle this. But then the whole thing starts leaning down because the process is getting lengthier, then alignment, disalignment, weakening and fragmentation of the groups start, delays start happening in supplies. So all these takes a lot of time. The initial period is 1 to 4 days or 3 days, and the ultimate resilience comes in 1 to 3 years, right? Maybe more. Then each country or each society or each community has its a different level of uh, resilience, and resilience level will decide how much time it will take depending on what is their economic strength, what is their resilience, uh, because economy will decide the resilience. So the gap may be there between no or zero resilience or low resilience to high resilience communities. So everybody acts differently. That means when we are working on a framework, we have to take care of each and every community separately. And ultimately, we have, as a government, as other NGOs, it has to be a responsible governance, quality of life has to be seen. Strong economy will give a different challenges, and ultimately, community members are to be educated for this preparedness of the disaster. Now, technology organizations, community for social and economic resilience, how they are independent, interdependent, is community wants the least losses, casualties, disruption, and least economic losses. And for this, electricity utility is required, water services and technical and organization support of water services is required, local emergency and management services is required, health services, technical and organization support, and all other services, because all these are interlinked, right? So system and community performance measures have to be taken care of accordingly. I have brought in so many parameters, right? Multiple variables, multiple hazards, multiple communities, age cohorts. And if I start drawing a graph, I have to take a pause over here, hand you over to Professor Vinod Menon to take me further.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, in terms of looking at what happens to disaster victims when disasters happen, we have a framework which is provided by the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies on interagency interventions in mental health and psychosocial support in emergencies. So at the lower level of the pyramid, at the lowest level, you have social considerations and basic services by providing advocacy for community engagement. And at the second level, we have the social capital, which is basically working with family and community to help the disaster victims. And at the third level, you have the person-to-person services provided by the primary health center facilities and by the healthcare delivery systems. And finally, we have the referral systems by specialists, for psychiatrists and counselors who will be able to provide support to such people. And if you really look at the need for community development through multi-stakeholder engagement, what are the principles? So we have community engagement processes and approaches, which we can see that there is a need for looking at indigenous knowledge systems, traditional knowledge, and also capacity building through education and training. And here, the International Emergency Management Society, based in Oslo, is also providing education in international emergency management practices through the TQC and TQAC. And we have community empowerment, which is also provided through civil society organizations at the local level. And so we have to look at the frameworks which are available. And so in the next slide, we will see that there is the human-centric resilience framework for the disaster resilient future ready framework, which is actually provided by the the Foundation for Rural and Regional Renewal, FRRR in Australia, which has provided this framework, which is by developing the social capital through multi-stakeholder engagement and providing community empowerment through social solutions. And we can actually see that this is actually extremely important. And we have seen right now, we have the earthquake, which has actually struck Morocco. And we know that many people are trapped, and then in the collapse structures, search and rescue efforts are going on. And we need to really provide support to every disaster which is actually happening. And disasters, climate change induced hydrometeorological disasters, and extreme events are actually challenging. And that becomes very important for us to understand this. So how do we really make sure that we have disaster resilient, future ready communities? So this framework, which we have shared with you, would be helpful. And we need to take a deep dive, look at some of the documents whose links have been provided in the slides. And we need to really look at developing frameworks, strengthening and consolidating these frameworks, looking at knowledge, skills, and attitudes of the community at the grassroots level, who are always the first responders, responding to the disaster, helping the disaster affected communities. And we also need to look at collaboration and partnerships. And we know that partnerships are the most important sustainable development goal, SDG 17, which actually needs to be further strengthened. And so we hope that the delegates who are attending this conference and the civil society organizations, emergency management practitioners will look at future ready, disaster resilient frameworks to really look at community empowerment and providing solutions. So over to you.
Sir, this is a recorded message. If any participant has any question, then it can be emailed to us and we will answer. But hopefully, we'll be able to present it online. Then we can answer the questions directly. Thank you very much, and thanks for your time.
Thank you.